Alright y'all, brain building is in progress. We're about to install new software into our brains. Today we're going to discuss how to install, create, and run Unreal 7 on Ubuntu 18.04, codenamed Bionic. Our objectives for today include discussion what Ruby on Rails is, what a gem is, how to install Ruby on Rails, how to install and configure a database, how to create a Ruby on Rails app, how to configure your Rails app to use the database, and finally, how to run the Rails app. In case you don't already know what Ruby on Rails is, it's a web application framework written in Ruby. An application framework is a set of tools and libraries that help you create applications faster, and a web application is a software program that runs on a web server. One of the reasons for the popularity of Ruby on Rails, or Rails for short, as a web application framework is the ability to quickly incorporate new features through packages of code known as gems. If you want a specific feature, you just simply find a gem that performs that specific feature. You install the gem, do a little bit of configuring, and boom, you have a new feature in your web application. Some popular gems that users of Rails applications like to use to incorporate new features into their web application include Divide, which adds a full login and multi-factor authentication system in minutes, Hello Fax, which adds the ability to send and receive faxes, PDF Code, which can generate PDF files, Apollo Crawler, which crawls and parses web pages for data to allow our web application to use that data, and AWS SDK Transcribe, which gives your Rails app the ability to transcribe audio into speech. In order to prepare our system to install Ruby on Rails, we're going to execute the sudo apt-get update command to update our installed packages to the latest version within the software repository. Then we're going to execute the sudo apt-get install command to install prerequisite packages required by Rails. Those packages do include git core, zlib1gdev, build essential, libssl dev, libreadline dev, libyaml dev, libsqlite 3, sqlite 3, libxml2 dev, libsslt1 dev, libcore4, OpenSSL dev, software properties common, libffi dev. Okay, first of all, we're updating the packages on our system by running sudo apt-get update. You'll need to enter in the root password for your system. Or your user account password. Here, we're going to install the prerequisite packages. You may want to pause it right when I type in the packages to install, just in case I had a misspelling on the previous slide. And now the remaining steps are to install a version manager called ASDF. Some of the pros of using ASDF as a version manager does include being able to install multiple packages such as Ruby, Node.js, and Python, and you just have one interface to install all those packages. No need to use different tools to install those packages. As you can see, the next step is to use ASDF version manager plugin to install Ruby. Then we're going to install a source control package called Git that allows you to keep separate copies of different versions of your code. We're going to generate an SSH key to identify yourself to Git, to uniquely identify yourself to Git. We're going to add it to our GitHub account so you can keep different branches of your software. Then we're going to install Rails. we're going to install Node.js, which allows your web program to use JavaScript. We're going to install Yarn, which is basically an easy way to manage and install different libraries in your JavaScript application. We're going to install the database of your choice, which includes SQLite, MySQL, and PostgreSQL. I'll show you how to install each one of those databases and set them up. Then I'll show you how to create a Rails app that uses each of those different databases, how to configure the Rails app for each of those databases, and finally how to run the app. Now that we installed the necessary prerequisite packages for Ruby on Rails, we're first going to install a version manager known as ASDF. These are the commands we're going to use to install that program. We're going to clone the software code repository for ASDF from github.com by issuing the following git clone command. And we pass along the address of the repository as well as the local directory in which we wish to install ASDF version package version manager. Then we use the following echo command to append the configuration option to our bashrc profile, and then we finally issue a Z shell to reload our bash profile into our current terminal session. Now that we installed the necessary prerequisite packages for Ruby on Rails, we're first going to install a version manager known as ASDF. These are the commands we're going to use to install that program. We're going to clone the software code repository for ASDF from github.com by issuing the following git clone command. And we pass along the address of the repository as well as the local directory in which we wish to install ASDF version package version manager. Then we use the following echo command to append the configuration option to our bashrc profile, and then we finally issue a Z shell to reload our bash profile into our current terminal session. Now that we installed the necessary prerequisite packages for Ruby on Rails, we're first going to install a version manager known as ASDF. These are the commands we're going to use to install that program. We're going to clone the software code repository for ASDF from github.com by issuing the following git clone command. And we pass along the address of the repository as well as the local directory in which we wish to install ASDF version package version manager. Then we use the following echo command to append the configuration option to our bashrc profile, and then we finally issue a Z shell to reload our bash profile into our current terminal session. To give you a visual representation of each of those steps, here they are. First of all, we're going to clone the ASDF repository into the local user directory. And now we're going to configure our bash terminal to be able to use the ASDF plugin. Okay, apparently I made a mistake in configuring the bash terminal with one of the commands there, so I'm going to just load the profile manually and make the required correction and reload the shell. It's an easy fix, as you can see. Alright, let's go back to the correct slide. Alright, as you can see, now that we successfully installed the ASDF plugin manager, we're now going to use it to install the Ruby plugin. The steps involved in that process is the commands are ASDF plugin add Ruby. Then we're going to install Ruby version 3.2.2 by typing ASDF install Ruby base 3.2.2. Then we're going to set that to be the global Ruby version by typing ASDF global Ruby 3.2.2. We're going to update the gems on our system by typing gem update -system, and then we're just going to verify where Ruby is installed and what version is installed. Here is a visual representation of those steps being executed. It can take about a few minutes to install. Patience is a virtue here. This might be a good time to go get a cup of coffee or some tea, or soda if you prefer. Alright, took about 5 minutes to install Ruby version 3.2.2. Okay, here we're going to set the global Ruby version if multiple versions of Ruby are installed to version 3.2.2. We're going to we're going to update the gems if additional versions of Ruby are installed. We're going to confirm the path where Ruby is installed. And we're going to confirm the version of Ruby that is installed. Now that we successfully installed Ruby, as well as the ASDF plugin, the next few steps do involve installing a software code repository manager known as Git. The cool thing about Git is it makes it easy to maintain different versions of your code. If you happen to break your code, you can easily revert back to a previous version of your code known as a branch. Git is pretty straightforward to, install and configure and sign up for an account. The steps involving that include git config global space color.ui space true. The next command would be configuring your username for Git, which will be done by running the command git config global user.name followed by your name. Then the next command would be configuring your email address associated with your github.com account by running git config global user.email followed by your email address. Then you're going to generate a unique private key to identify yourself to github.com when you push your code to your github.com repository. That's pretty easy to do. You just run the command ssh-keygen space -t space ed25519 space -c followed by your email address. And then what you're going to do is you're going to output the key that is generated by that command so that you can copy and paste it to your github.com account. The specific page that you're going to upload that or paste that key to after you sign up for a github.com account is github.com/setting/ssh. I just want you to be aware of how you would do that because it is kind of hard to see in the screen recording that follows. Then you're going to verify that you successfully completed that step by running the command ssh space -T space git@github.com. Here, we're going to open up our web browser and go to github.com to sign up for an account. As you can see, it's relatively easy to sign up. You just click up on the sign up link. You just answer the questions that follow. You provide your email address. Here, my email address is davy.overman@gmail.com. You create a password of your choice. You provide a username, and you just answer this puzzle. You complete this puzzle just to verify that you are a human being instead of a robot or AI. Then you verify your email address by entering the provided code in your email that they send to you. You just answer some questions like how many team members you have and what features we'll be using GitHub.com for. And I recommend using the free version to start off with. They have a cool background. Alright, so now you successfully signed up for a GitHub.com account here. After you successfully signed up for your GitHub.com account, you're going to simply configure your Git software to use your Git.com hub account. Okay. Now you're going to generate an SSH key to identify you to Git without the need to have to type in a password. And I apologize, it's a little bit hard to see, but basically what I'm doing is I'm using the cat command to output the generated file, so I can just copy and paste the key, and you copy the part beginning with SSH there. And then you just paste it into the appropriate window. You assign a name to the key. And then you confirm that you successfully completed the steps there. And as you can see, we successfully completed the steps. The next steps involve installing Rails, installing Node.js so you can use JavaScript with our Rails app, and installing Run, which is a library manager for JavaScript to easily install and manage our JavaScript libraries. The next few commands, just type in gin install Rails space -v version 7.0.4.3. Then we're going to type Rails-V to verify that version of Rails was successfully installed. Then we're going to use the ASDF plugin manager to install Node.js by typing ASDF plugin add Node.js. Then we're going to, after we add that plugin to install and manage Node.js, we're going to actually install it by typing ASDF install Node.js space 18.16.0 to install that version. We're going to set that to be the global Node.js version by typing ASDF global Node.js 18.16.0. We're going to confirm the path for which node is installed by typing which node. Then we're going to verify the version installed by typing node-c. And finally, we're going to install Yarn by typing node package manager npm install -g space Yarn. Here's the screen stating that shows you how to perform those steps. First, we're going to install Yarn here. As you see, we're using the gn command to install the Rails package for an easy installation. The next step is to give Rails application the ability to use JavaScript by installing Node.js. Now we're installing the JavaScript library manager known as Yarn. Okay. Now, the next step is to install the database. I'm going to show you how to install SQLite, which actually that comes with Rails by default, MySQL, and PostgreSQL. Here is how we create a default Rails app that uses SQLite. We just simply type the command Rails new under app name. Here's the screen recording showing how that is done. Here we're checking the directory into the Rails that we just created. I'm showing you the database YAML file that shows you how the Rails app is configured to connect to SQLite, but it's already configured, no changes necessary. So all you have to do to run the app is you just simply type Rails server within that directory. And as you can see, we successfully created that. As you can see, generating a new Rails app to use the default SQLite database that comes with it is very quickly to create and run. However, SQLite is not recommended for production use as it is easily overloaded. Therefore, I'm about to show you how to install and configure MySQL. Back to the flow. Alright, to install MySQL is pretty straightforward. We're going to install the prerequisite packages it requires. Basically, we'll install the necessary packages, MySQL Server, MySQL Client, and leave MySQL Client dev. If it prompts for a root password, we will enter it in. If we're not prompted for a password, we will just proceed to the next step here. I'm going to just show you a screen recording on how to do that. Apologize, a little bit hard to see my screen. I don't know how I could text you chat back at the bottom there, but you can refer back to the previous slide if you couldn't see the command there to type. Okay, big steps on how to set the initial MySQL password. Option 1, there's another way to do it if you prefer. You can just type in MySQL /version to verify the version of MySQL or MySQL that was installed. Just type sudo MySQL -u to switch to the root user. Then once you actually log into the MySQL client, you can type select user, host, plugin from the table MySQL.user to basically see what plugin they are using to to encrypt the password for. Once you know that piece of information, you can just type use MySQL to use that particular table in the database. Then you're going to type the command alter user single quote root to identify the user, at single quote localhost to identify the host name of the machine that user is on, identified by single quote password that password to set the password that the particular user is implicated with. Then, to make sure everything matches or everything's good to go, you're going to type update user set plugin to the piece of information you found earlier. Set plugin equal to single quote plugin mechanism where user equals single quote username, which in this case is you. You're going to type flush privileges to flush out the privilege there. You're going to type exit, and you're going to type sudo service MySQL restart or restart the service. And here's the screen recording of those steps in action. And I do apologize, it did not the command is chat box at the bottom there. This is my first YouTube video, but just refer back to the previous slide to see the actual command. If you rather not use the root user to access the database in your Whereas application, you can create a user and use that user to reference or use the MySQL database in your Whereas application. Here are the commands involved in that. MySQL -- version just to verify the version of MySQL that's installed. You access the MySQL client by typing sudo MySQL -u root. Then you run select user host plugin from MySQL.user just to see the user and password authentication mechanisms that are used by that particular version of MySQL. Then you type use MySQL to use that particular table within the database. Then here, the difference here is you're going to say create user, your user that you're creating, or your system user, your username that you use to log in Ubuntu with, single quote localhost. You're going to grant all privileges to your system user at localhost. You're going to set your password by typing alter user, your username at localhost identified by your password that you set. Then you're just going to make sure that you're using the mechanism, the password authentication mechanism that is used by the other accounts on your version of MySQL. Make sure that's good to go there. By typing update user set plugin equals plugin, or whatever it is, where user is your user at localhost. You're going to flash the privileges, exit the MySQL client, and restart the service. And here the screen recording showing that's in action. Now that we successfully installed and set up MySQL, it's pretty easy to generate a new app that uses MySQL as the database instead of the default SQLite. You simply follow the same steps as before to create a new web application by typing web new followed by your app name, but this time we're going to pass a parameter -d followed by MySQL to let rows know that we're going to use MySQL as the database for this particular app. Here's a screen recording showing how easy it is to generate a new web application that uses MySQL as its database instead of the default SQLite database, which again, the SQLite database is not recommended for production use as it is easily overloaded. Here is the default configuration file that allows Word to use MySQL. The configuration file is known as database.yaml. It is under the config directory in your Word application directory. Before we start discussing how to configure the database YAML file to allow your Word application to connect to your MySQL database, let's sidetrack a little bit and discuss some of the things that we need to consider while we're developing our Ruby on Rails application. And some of the things that we need to consider is protecting our Rails application from attacks on the internet. For instance, the Gartner Group research has led them to conclude that 75% of attacks are at the web application layer. In other words, 75% of attacks from the internet is going to be targeting your Rails application. And common attack vectors against your Rails applications will include session hijacking, session fixation, cookie share session replay attack, cross-site request forgery, redirection, file upload, and if they can get into your Git repository or source code, then they'll have access to your credentials that you might otherwise use to connect your Rails application to different services, such as your database services, your email service that you use to send out your emails, your Amazon S3 storage where you store your external files, things like that. So you really want to be able to protect your credentials that you use to authenticate your Rails application to those services that you use. In a future lesson, we'll discuss how to protect your Rails application from these different attack mechanisms. But in today's lesson, we're just going to discuss how to protect your credentials that you use to authenticate your Rails app to different services from prying eyes. And basically, how Rails encrypts credentials within a Rails application is just with two files, and those files are credentials.yaml.enc, which means credentials.yaml are the encoded version. That particular file contains encoded versions of secret keys, outbound email username and password, database credentials, cloud file storage credentials, as mentioned in the previous slide. This file can be safely committed to your Git repository as it is encrypted. And the master key is what actually contains the encryption hash used to encrypt and decrypt the credential YAML.enc file, and you never want to commit that file to a Git repository or share that file. So, how do you edit and store the encrypted credentials? Simple. You simply use the Rails credential:"edit" command. When you're running that command for the first time, you will likely get an error saying no editor to open the file in. So what you're going to do is you're going to assign one like this. For instance, on my machine, which I run Linux, I'm going to just type in editor equals double quote nano, and I'm going to end the quote. I don't actually have to pass the wait command, but I didn't realize that until later. Space in/Rails credential:"edit," and in Windows, you would simply type get editor equals and provide the path to Notepad. Here is a screen recording showing the previous command being executed. Okay. Here we need to tell the rare credential edit command what editor we prefer to use to edit the credentials. So we're going to let it know that we prefer to use Nano as our editor. I did not realize when I first typed in this command that Nano is not an editor that faults before executing, so it does not recognize the wait parameter. So therefore I am going to take out the wait parameter here. Alright, as you can see, there is our secret key, and we can now add credentials there. The credentials we're interested in adding include our credentials to authenticate our Rails app to the MySQL database. How we're going to add those credentials, we're going to say MySQL underscore database colon, and then we're going to indent the next two lines, which are our credentials, just to indicate they go together. We're going to say user colon, followed by the username, as well as on the next line. We're going to type password colon, followed by the password. And here is the screen recording showing that how we're going to permanently save the editor that we prefer to use with rare credential edit command as part of our bash RC profile. We want to reload the shell environment variable by running a Z shell. And we're going to add our MySQL credentials now. Now that we know how to add credentials we wish to be encrypted to our Rails app, how do we access those encrypted credentials from our source code within the Rails app? We simply use the rails.application.credential.dig command. Here is our database.yaml configuration file. There is a mistake within this particular slide here. It should say username colon, followed by a space. We need to include the Rails command parameters here, or delimiters I should say. So it should say username colon, followed by a space, less than sign, percent, equals, space, rails.application.credential.dig, left parentheses, colon, MySQL underscore database, comma, space, colon, user, right parentheses, followed by space, percent, and the greater than sign to let the Rails parser know that is a Rails command. Then where it says password, we need to say password, colon, excuse me, followed by a space, less than sign, percent, equals, rails.application.credential.dig, left parentheses, colon, MySQL underscore database, comma, space, colon, password, right parentheses, followed by a space, percent sign, and greater than sign. And we're going to see all that demonstrated in just a few moments. Here is our new database YAML file. We're also going to change socket to use the host address to connect to MySQL, as well as the port number. And as you can see, that host address is going to be host colon 127.0.0.1. On the next line, we're going to specify the port number by typing port colon space 3306, and here is the screen recording showing that in action. Now that we successfully configured our Rails app to retrieve the encrypted MySQL username and password to authenticate itself to the MySQL database, we are now going to run the Rails app to ensure everything's running correctly or configured correctly. And that's easy to do. Once we run Rails server to execute the app, we open up a web browser and type localhost : followed by a space and port number 3000, and as you can see, the Rails app did run successfully. Now that we successfully ran a Rails app using MySQL database, we're going to talk about how to install PostgreSQL database if you prefer to use that. Here are the steps involved. You will type in sudo apt install PostgreSQL libpq-dev. Then you're going to run the following command to create a database user to authenticate with. That will be done with sudo-u Postgres create user followed by the username, and you will pass the parameter -s. Then you're going to log into the PostgreSQL client with sudo-u followed by space Postgres followed by space PSQL. And once you are presented with the database command prompt, you're going to type Postgres equals hashtag followed by space /password and the username for which you want to specify a password for. Here's a screen recording showing the previous commands in action. First of all, we're going to get started by updating our existing packages. I type in sudo apt update & sudo apt upgrade. And it takes about a couple of minutes. Now we're going to install PostgreSQL. Now we're going to create a user to authenticate ourselves to or authenticate our Rails app to the PostgreSQL database. Now we're going to create a password for our user to authenticate with. And now, here is how you create a new Rails app that uses PostgreSQL as the database of choice. And here is the screen recording showing this in action. Whoops. And here are the steps required to run that app. We're going to run rake db create and then Rails server. And I think you also need to do the same thing for the MySQL database as well. I think I might have skipped that, mentioning that earlier, but you do run rake db create followed by Rails server at the prompt within your app directory. Here is the screen recording of that in action. We change directory into the application directory. And here we're running rake db create, and that creates the database for us. And then we run Rails server. And then we go to our web browser, type in localhost port 3000. And as you can see, the Rails app ran successfully. Here are the references that we use to create this presentation. I highly recommend, if you're learning to use Ruby on Rails for the first time, to go to gorails.com. It's owned by Chris Oliver. He does some wonderful Rails tutorials. He's very thorough. And then here are some other websites as well that can answer different questions you may have, as in troubleshooting different databases and things like that. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment or send me an email at davey.overman@gmail.com. Thank you for your time. Have a great day.